people don't bring their personal experience into their videos enough. And also they don't allow themselves to get vulnerable. They don't talk about like the tough shit. My top 3 best performing videos are I got laid off, I got called out, and I got fired. Like people love hearing about other people's failures, honestly. And as long as, you kind of like bring it full circle of being like, here's what I learned, here's how I'm going to be better, then people really relate to that. And they actually appreciate that you were like so willing to be open like that. And you can do it in a funny way. Like all of mine are very like self-deprecating fun, right? My favorite comment I think I've ever gotten, I just got it the other day on a video I posted, was a woman who was like, I just love how genuine and fun you are. And I feel like you would be the best neighbor and we could just like chat over the garden fence together all day. And I was like, that is amazing. That is exactly the vibe I'm trying to give, right? Like I'm just your best friend next door who helps you be creative and, make fun, engaging video content. And the other thing I think people do wrong is they try to do too much too fast. So they're like, they see content like mine where I have 10 years of experience developing video content. And so obviously it is going to be very different than someone who's doing it for the first time. And so they're trying to do these crazy edits. They're changing scenes every 5 seconds, when really you just need to sit in front of the camera and talk, edit out some of the pauses, add some captions, and there you go. Start there. Don't make it complicated, because if you do too much too soon, you won't do it again.
Welcome, everybody, back to the Full Battery Media Podcast. I am your host, Sean Trace, and I have an awesome guest with me today. Would you like to tell people who you are and what you do?
Hello, everyone. My name is Katy Roberts. I use the umbrella term of freelance creative because I do a lot of things. But within that umbrella, I have a local photography business. But in relation to today's podcast, I am a freelance video producer, and I help personal brands stand out online with video content. Lots of different forms of that. But yeah.
That's awesome. First of all, you're the guest that has had the coolest background of anyone I've had on. I love like the like tool board, and then like the photos, and everything's got like lots of color mixes. It grabs attention, and I think that's important, and I think that people don't realize the little shit that pulls people in, but love it. So just wanted to say that real quick. But
thank you. This is actually a new edition. Stay tuned. I have a whole series coming out about redecorating my office. But the corkboard I literally found I found this corkboard on the side of the road, and I hauled it home like half a mile while walking my dog, and then I spray painted it yellow and threw a bunch of stuff up there.
That's rad. That's awesome. Well, it looks great, and I love good backgrounds. I need to redo mine, but it works for right now.
I like yours.
It's me, it's kind of like my wife. My wife was like, I want to remodel your room. I was like, no, please no, because I know what you'll do, and it will be known not me. It might look really good though, but I just like the vibe that I got, But I want to ask you this, because when I was looking at your content, that was one of the reasons I reached out to you, because you had some really cool content that you were posting up, and it led me to want to ask this question. Like, most videos get scrolled past. What actually makes someone stop?
Well, first of all, thank you. It's been years of rendition and experimentation to figure out what actually works. But in that time, I think it comes down to 2 things. There's one, it's curiosity. You have to engage the viewer's curiosity. And then it's about relation. So are they able to relate to your content? Are they able to say, yes, this is made for me? And so I like to say you pull them in with curiosity, and that could be your visuals. So for my content in particular, it's very colorful. I mostly post on LinkedIn, where it is a sea of sad beige walls.
What's the
And
world?
so the way I stand out, the way I stand out is my colorful backdrops, my colorful beanies, things like that. And then obviously, people always talk about the hook. You can have a very curiosity enticing hook that makes people say, like, wait, what? Or I need to know more about this. And then, but the reason people stick around is because it relates to them in some way. It's going to
Bro,
have some impact on their life. That could even be it gives them a good laugh, but
well,
no one's sticking around if they're not going to get something out of it personally. We all are inevitably selfish, right? And so you got to think about like how your viewer is going to be feeling and thinking throughout the entire video itself.
I made a video, I made a post on LinkedIn today. And I think that I couldn't get it really. I should have done a video. Is way more funny than you'd think, but it didn't sound funny. I realized that there was a failure in that in the second half. But I was walking down the street today, and this one lady looked at me and said, "Good morning." Okay, and I was just like, "Wow, okay." And I recognized her, and I was like, "Oh, I know you. You pulled a knife on me 6 years ago." Literally,
What?
oh, totally, totally. So here's the story. So I
Wow,
was
this took a turn I did not expect.
totally took a turn,
Here you go. This is your curiosity. This is your curiosity enticing thing. I'm hooked. Let's go.
right? Took a hard left. This story just took a hard left. And that's what I was trying to do in the post. But like someone was like, I don't think that's good advice. I think that's dangerous to tell people that. Then I'll tell you the full post and explain everything. It needs more detail. My wife is pregnant. Now, Vietnam has lots of karaoke, like lots. But karaoke and beer go hand in hand. And
Of
there
course.
is this inverse, like the more beer that comes in, the worse the pitch, the worse
Hmm.
the like.
But
It's
the
just,
higher the confidence. But yes.
and the higher the confidence, and they just start going off the rails. And so we had neighbors that were the definition of the world's worst neighbors, and they would just wheel out their karaoke thing and go till 3, 4 in the morning, and it
Like
was just whole
outside.
dude outside aimed down the street, and the liquid confidence was flowing, and they just were amazed. And like, I'm the type where I don't deal so well with stuff like that. I, I'm the type that I'll just get in someone's face about it. I'm like, turn your friggin' radio down, man. You're kind of a
Hmm.
jackass. And so I went outside late at night, and it was like I just went out. I was like, guys, can you cut the music? Now, what does this mean, right? Cut it, right? Cut the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
cut it, cut it. They thought I was going like this. And so I'm like, cut the
Oh.
music, cut the music. And he's like, I'll take it, And so guy runs, and like they get him really pissed off. They come, and this little old lady, she was not old. She may be like, at that time she's like 50 something, and
Uh-huh.
pulls a knife, and like I was just like, what the hell? Pulling a knife, cops come, it all gets cleaned up, but they tried to storm into my family's house. It was wild, right? She ended up getting arrested a couple days later for something else because she was
Oh
just
my
out of
God.
control, right?
It's those cute little old ladies that you can't trust.
Yeah, 50 something year old lady pulling a knife on people and scamming people and stuff. It was wild. She was on a roll. But she disappeared for a while, but she came back. She was always around the neighbor's house. And um I always remembered her, and I was just like, oh, it's that lady. And smile, be polite. And then
Hmm.
just like over time, she just started smiling back at me, and just smiling more and more, and over time, I mean, we're talking 8 years ago now. And now
Wow.
she sees me, and it's like water under the bridge. She's like, how's your daughter? Your daughter's so tall and cute now. I'm like, and I'm sitting there going, you pulled a knife on me. I can't get past that
On
part,
it, I
right?
mean, she probably doesn't even remember. She was like 6 beers in.
Right? But the thing is, and I posted on LinkedIn, and I was just like, uh, sometimes you gotta play the long game. Relationships are better to
Hmm.
mend than to go down with the ship, And so But that was my LinkedIn post today, and I was just like, I thought it was hilarious.
Hell of a
But
hook.
hell of a hook, right? Someone pulled a knife in,
Yeah.
So, but I mean, you got to find a way to get attention, but also to deliver value. For me, that story was about, don't burn bridges down. Just because someone's a jerk
Yeah.
in the beginning, it doesn't mean that it's going to go always bad. And you never know
Mhm.
what's going to happen.
Totally.
I
Yeah.
want to ask you about this one. You talk about memorability over virality, and I love that.
Yes.
Memorability, why is that such a critical distinction for personal brands?
Right. So, I mean, it's funny because the whole reason I started posting content on LinkedIn is because I went viral and I wasn't expecting it. So, but however, I think I essentially analyzed that post of being like, what was it that made people tune in and how can I replicate it? And I
Right.
essentially started creating my own personal brand around that and, trying different things, seeing what stuck, but inevitably creating the bones of my personal brand. And so now 90% of my content has like some core elements in it that I never change so that people recognize me instantly, right? And that has really been what's kept people coming back. And I like to think about it like if you think about your favorite TV show, or there's a reason we love a TV series, it's because they kind of have the same tropes. It's the same characters tackling the same problem almost every time. Like a Seinfeld episode is literally the same thing every time, just with like one little thing or one part of the plot's different, but like it's inevitably the same arc with the same characters. And that's what we're looking for. And so when people go to your content, like it feels nice to see the same thing. And they know what to expect from you. Right. And so that's what they're like, well, I know Katie's going to inspire me to be creative in some way. And so that's why I'm going to stick around because she has always done that in the past. And I can expect her to continue to do that in the future.
I love that. And that I reference this one book a lot, and it's one of my favorite books, and it's called Trust Agents. It was written early on in the internet age, and it looked at the idea about one of the most important things that you can do is to build trust. You build trust by giving and delivering that thing again and again with consistency, and the people again can really depend upon you for that. And that's the experience they're looking for. And it's interesting when you try to change that too much, people can get a little bit resistant. But at the same time, I do feel like as long as you're working that memorability angle, you can continue to deliver powerful experiences for them as just as long as you're
Mm-hmm.
not, going from making plumbing videos to ping pong videos, which is an actual story that I heard recently from a guest. Some guy was one
Wow.
of his clients was making a plumbing channel. And then he put up a ping pong video of him playing ping pong and it went viral. But it caused problems for his channel because all of these new followers that found him through the ping pong video, when he started posting the plumbing video, they were confused and they didn't
Oh,
engage. And so YouTube started downgrading all of his videos, which was a challenge for him,
that is tricky.
right?
Yeah, I will say I would say that's a very unique situation
Right?
that is
It was a
not
weird
common,
yeah.
you
But I
know?
mean, that's what I was thinking,
But
like,
yeah.
attention is attention, which is attention, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And I think that as long as you're
Yes. I would say 90%, if 90% of your content is talking about exactly what you're trying to build your brand on, right?
yeah,
Um, then you are going to build the type of audience that you want because at the end of the day, even if you have a million followers, if they're not the right kind of followers, then it doesn't matter. Like they're not going to buy from you or engage with you in the way that serves you because like yeah, they're not really there for the reasons you want them to be. And so when it comes to your personal brand, I like to think of you have your anchor words, it's almost like your core values that uh, are the building foundation of your brand. And so you can kind of think of it like a marriage, right? Where like
No.
I'm getting married in June, and I, my fiance and I know over the next hopefully many, many years that we are together are going to change a lot. Our wants and
Yep.
needs are going to change. We're going to try new things. We're going to like, all these different things. However, I'm confident that we'll be successful together because we have these core values that tied us together from the beginning. And that's what we're always going to come back to before we make any transition or big change. And so you can kind of think of it like that with your content.
I love that. And I think that's it. It's about being able to re-tap in and to reconnect and just re-find alignment. But one of the things that I find is trying to find that originality in what I'm doing. I mean, I with a podcast, you can have the same conversation at any number of times with different people, but like one of the things I try not to do is to try to copy someone's video style or
Mhm.
things. What happens when someone copies a video style that isn't theirs? Because we see that a lot now.
Well, that's the thing. You can tell. You can tell immediately. And it's like we talk about the online cringe or whatever. That is when I feel the cringe when I'm watching somebody and I can tell they're just not being themselves. And being your authentic self, it's such a cliche term, but and it's hard to describe what your authentic self is. However, I think it's very obvious when you're not being your authentic self. So it's kind of like knowing how not to feel in order to know how it feels to like be yourself on camera, right? And I used to do this like when I started YouTube.
Mhm.
I was, that's how I got into video is I tried to be YouTube famous. And this was back in 2015, heyday of Casey Neistat, Peter McKinnon vlogging, the really like cool New York City dudes on YouTube where I'm like this like quirky girl, like whimsical little witch. Like I am not the cool city dude. And that is okay, but I was trying to be like them and it didn't work. And so over time I have developed what really works for me, how to show up, finding my voice that's not too loud, not too soft, but like just right.
I love that. But that's it. It's about finding your voice and finding your I was a how I honed my skills of podcasting was with one thing. I was a children's teacher for 20 some odd years.
Oh.
I taught English on the side and taught kids English in Southeast Asia while I was building my media company because it was a good side hustle. And the most brutal uh audience member ever is like a 10 to 12-year-old kid. Like they're like, this class sucks. They want to be entertained. They want to have fun. And I, honed this style of mix between education, comedy, stand up, and a little bit of just all this other stuff. And my boss would observe me and he's like, I want to give you zeros on everything. He's like, because your prep is horrible. Your lead-ins and all this are horrible. But he says, I've never been in a more interesting class because you know how to engage with the kids. You know how to work with them. You know how to like draw them out. And he's like, you were just sitting there just like absolutely. Because I'll give a kid shit like endlessly. I do that with my workers now too. There's one kid here, Andrew. He's my favorite editor. And he is an editor slash After Effects artist. He is one of those absolutely socially awkward kids that became a socially awkward adult, but he is a heart of gold. And when
Mm-hmm.
and I was getting ready to open up a new office space and I was like, hey, you finally get to move into a bigger room. And he's like, can I stay with you? Because I just have a lot of fun at
Aw,
work. It made me feel really good. I was like,
that's
Andrew,
so cute.
you can stay in this office as long as you want. You're my bud. But it was like I was able to see him. And one of the things too is like why I'm bringing this all up around content is that my style is not like anyone else's. I studied acting in Los Angeles a long time ago, and I use this example all the time. Um, Ivana Chevik was my teacher, great teacher, and I went and observed one of her classes. It was when the movie Boiler Room was at its peak. And that movie's amazing if you've never seen it. It's great. It's an old Vin Diesel, Giovanni Ribisi, all these great. And these guys are essentially running a like Wall Street type scam. They're getting people to
Mm-hmm.
invest, and then they're investing and stealing, essentially stealing that money that was invested. And Giovanni Ribisi plays this one character. Giovanni Ribisi's always got this, like, he's like freaking out like half
Yeah.
the time. And he's got these like this really exaggerated thing. Like he's always, oh man, peak. And the actor that was playing that scene channeled Giovanni Ribisi perfectly. Like I was sitting there going, oh my God, that guy was just Giovanni Ribisi. And the whole class, we thought that he was going to get the most amazing reviews. Teacher tore him apart. She was like, that was horrible. I didn't. And here's what she said: I didn't ask you to be Giovanni Ribisi. I asked you to be
Huh.
you. I asked you to
Hmm.
embody. How would you embody that role? How would you play that role? And she's like, if they wanted Giovanni Ribisi, they're gonna cast Giovanni Ribisi. If someone wants to watch Mr. Beast, they're gonna watch Mr. Beast. If someone wants to watch someone else, they're gonna watch them. You have to find you and the reason that those people are gonna want to come and watch you. It's individual.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. And the tough part is like it's easy to say this. It's so hard to actually figure that out. And it just takes time. And that's like the shitty part of this is that it
Right.
takes practice, and like nobody wants to hear that. Like they want to be like, oh, well, I just like figure it out overnight. But you can't because it does take a lot of trial and error. And I think there are like some tricks that you can try to make it move a little faster, but at the end of the day, it is about like putting in the reps, seeing what works, letting yourself be a little cringy and learning from that.
Right. I love that. Sometimes you have to do what you got to do to really find your space. And it's like, it does. There are moments where you are horribly cringe. And I remember early on for me, I made some videos that were just awful. And I learned a lot about who I was. And like, I tried to get, especially with my daughter, with her YouTube, we were making early Alani's Little World. And we're like, let's open some toys. And I was just like, and very quickly as an educator, I was like, we're not doing the toy channel thing. And one of my friends said, Sean, that's not you. Don't do that.
Hmm.
And I was like, when I tried to make these videos, I was like, what toy can we go buy next? And we had like a giant room full of toys. And I was like, we're not doing this. And,
Hmm.
we started making educational content. We started talking to kids about science and STEM and seeing animals and talking to NASA scientists. And it was fun. And my daughter loved it. And it was our unique
That's so
thing.
cool.
It
Do you still
is.
do
And it,
that?
for sure, we're still doing it and still building it. Then it's a lot of fun, and the coolest part is I get to do it with my daughter. So I think that's the blessing of it all. But I want to ask you a question because you use anchor words to define on-camera personality. How does that change someone's content strategy long term? And what do you mean by anchor words?
So your anchor words, I kind of referred to this earlier, but it's think about it like it is your on-camera personality, right? But they're kind of the core basis of that. So for me personally, my anchor words are playful, curious, witty, and sincere.
Mm,
And so it's kind of like an encapsulating view of what you can expect to feel when you
okay.
watch my content. And so it's very specific though. So I'm not laugh out loud funny. I'm not a comedian, but I'm witty. I'm like, you kind of get like this, I don't know, just witty feeling watching my content. And it's obviously very playful, but it's sincere. So the big thing that I like to come back to with this idea of being playful is the reason I added sincere is that I love the phrase, you don't have to be serious all the time to be taken seriously, but
Mhm.
you do have to be sincere. People have to know that you're coming from a place of truth, that you have their best interests at heart, and that they're going to get something out of this. But that doesn't mean you have to be like super serious and boring. So those are my anchor words. And I came up with those after creating a lot of content, looking back on it and being like, what are some words to describe this content? And you can come up with these without even creating content that will be put on the internet. You don't have to do that yet, but you can even just record yourself and talk about something that lights you up. Like you're chatting with a friend in a bar, be like, what's like the best vacation you ever went to, or like how you met your partner, you know, I don't know, what you love about your pet, like things that are really exciting to you, and then watch it back and describe how you seem on camera. And those can be your anchor words, because that is like your true authentic self, right? Like you're not acting, you are just being yourself and talking about what you love. And then you can, when you're creating your scripts, when you're thinking about how this translates into content, you can keep coming back to those anchor words and being like, okay, does this script seem playful? Does it seem sincere? Is it a little witty? All these things that like bring you back to who you are, to make sure that like your full authentic self is coming through on camera.
I love that. Man, it makes a lot of sense because, you know, if you deviate from that, people tend to not like it, you know. But I wanted to ask you another question, because what's the biggest mistake professionals make when they finally decide to start doing videos? And I'll tell you the one I see from what we edit.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I notice is that people, oh man, people are just doing like spamming people with AI scripts. And they're just like, what they think people want to hear. I'm here to tell you why a 401k is the most important investment vehicle that you should
Mm-hmm.
have. And you're just like, dude, come on, man. Tell me about your experience. Tell me about your life. The other day, I made a video about content. Now, I'm walking down the street and I went to buy a new DJI mic. I'm walking down the street and someone says, I am your father. And I was just like, what the fuck is that all
What?
about? And I was just like, and I'm a huge Star Wars fan, like huge Star Wars fan. And all of a sudden I was like, I am your father. And I was like, dude, I'm Luke. You're with Vader. I'm Luke. I'm good with that. And I looked down and I realized I wore a shirt that said, I am your father. And I was just like, oh shit, I forgot I was wearing this. So I walked up the street, bought my mics, came back out, and I was just like, the guy was still there. And I was like, dude, can you say that again on camera? He's like, I am your father. And I was like, nice. I reported it, made a video about it, and, you know, spiced it up a little bit. But it was unique. It was memorable.
Yeah.
What was the video about?
Mm-hmm.
The video was about creating content. And I was talking about mics. I used the new mics in the video. And right there, like it was so much more memorable than me being like, I
Mm-hmm.
just bought 2 new mics and they're really good and I'm very happy I got them. No one's gonna give a crap about that, you know? You gotta be
Yeah.
memorable.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. And I would expand on it, saying people don't bring their personal experience into their videos enough. And also, they don't allow themselves to get vulnerable. They don't talk
Mm.
about like the tough shit. My top three best performing videos are I got laid off, I got called out, and I got fired. Like people love hearing about other people's failures, honestly. And as long as, you kind of like bring it full circle of being like, here's what I learned, here's how I'm going to be better, then people really relate to that, and they actually appreciate that you were like so willing to be open like that. And you can do it in a funny way. Like all of mine are very like self-deprecating fun,
It's so
right? And but that is like, I had my favorite comment I think I've ever gotten, I just got it the other day on a video I posted, was a woman who was like, I just love how genuine and fun you are. And I feel like you would be the best neighbor and we could just like chat over the garden fence together all day. And I was like,
that's right.
that is amazing. That is exactly the vibe I'm trying to give, right? Like, I'm just your best friend next door who helps you be creative and, make fun, engaging video content. And so that's when I get comments like that, I'm like, I know I'm nailing it. And the other thing I think people do wrong is they try to do too much too fast. So they're
Yeah.
like, they see content like mine where I have 10 years of experience developing video content. And so obviously it is going to be very different than someone who's doing it for the first time. And so they're trying to do these crazy edits. They're changing scenes every 5 seconds, when
Mm-hmm.
really you just need to sit in front of the camera and talk, edit out some of the pauses, add some captions, and there you go. Start there. Don't make it
Mm-hmm.
complicated, because if you do too much too soon, you won't do it again.
Right.
And consistency is important.
I 100% agree. I think that when people try to do too much, they might be able to pull it off for a day or two, and then they hit a wall. That's one of the reasons that I've had a lot of success with my clients, just because I tell them that. I say, you know what, you are going to hit a wall, and
Yeah.
you're paying me to be the person who helps you get through that wall. And like,
Mm-hmm.
I do everything I can to help like I say, drag people to the finish line, because that's what I generally end up having to do, is like say, we're gonna get there, come on, let's go. But one of the things too that I notice is that it takes people, for podcasts, I tell people they're not going to feel natural until their 10th podcast plus,
Yeah.
maybe further. And for short form, you know what? I've been doing podcast. I still feel super awkward on short form unless I'm just freestyling it. Like if I try to sit down with a script, the today I'm gonna that, and then turning to this camera and then turning here. I'm so bad at that. I'm so
It's so
bad at.
funny. I'm the opposite. I'm like,
Oh
I
man,
struggle with long form because I feel like I have to like really be on, compared to short form where I can do like one line at a time. So it's
it,
interesting.
it's interesting. We each have our strengths, but this is what I wanted to ask you though, because confidence on camera, is it a skill? Is it a mindset, or is it just reps?
It's all three. It
Right?
is, I think you have to put in the reps in order to gain the skill, but in order to be proficient at that, you have to have the right mindset. And that mindset is being willing to fail, and being willing to make fun of yourself, and know that you're not going to nail it the first time, and also being open to like trying new things. So another thing I love to tell people to do is, we talked about not copying other people. However,
Mm-hmm.
I think what I like to call intentional scrolling is
Mm,
a great homework for your voice, but especially for like your visual aesthetic. Like, what do you want your space to look like? What fonts do you want to use? All this kind of stuff. Um, but also like how you show up on camera, getting ideas from other creators. I feel like my style in particular is like an amalgamation of 50 different creators, right? That I have seen throughout my time doing this. And I've taken a little nugget of theirs that I like, and I've brought it into my own style. But because it's also, I've taken nuggets from 50 other people, it's now become mine. And it's a very recognizable as Katy Roberts's videos. But like, originality is, I think, doesn't exist, right? Like it is just a combination of everyone that you're inspired by.
I love that. It is. We are kind of this potpourri of combinations. I haven't seen a potpourri for sale in forever. That's like a thing that we just don't get in Asia. But you've led teams at a global nonprofit. Now you run your own creative business. What changed when it became your name on the line?
You know what's interesting is I actually felt so much more freedom when it was just my business.
Mm,
And because at the nonprofit, which I'm sure is the same at any company or organization, is there are guardrails around what you're allowed to say, what you're allowed to talk
mhm,
about. And the nonprofit in particular, like we're nonpartisan, we could not have strong opinions, any right or left. And so big things in the world would happen, and I'd want to say something. But like that was not okay. And if it was a
mhm.
little spicy, we had to go to leadership. It took forever. And so with my own company, I can say whatever I want. And yes, like you have to be careful. Like this is your personal name on the line. However, I think that's kind of fun, and I am not afraid to get a little spicy, and I think that actually helps when standing out online. People who have just like boring opinions that don't rile any feathers, they're not going to be known for anything.
Right.
And so, yes, you have to be a little more careful. I'm definitely more careful with what I put on LinkedIn compared to what I put on Instagram,
Mhm.
because LinkedIn is this like more professional platform. I try to be like very, I mean, work specific in a way.
Mhm.
Instagram, I'm a little louder about certain things. Um, but yeah, at the end of the day, I feel so much more freedom to just like fully be myself and like just let myself post whatever the hell I want to post.
I love that. Right? At the end of the day, that's what you got to like. I had the other day, um, I've been we've been dealing with a sick kiddo, and that's the reason I'm actually really tired tonight. I had to take my daughter to the
Mm.
hospital. It
Whew.
Doctor's office.
Really
We go to the
sick.
hospital. We go to the
Okay.
hospital here for just like regular doctor's visits in Vietnam.
Okay.
Like it's where you go for doctor's appointments. But we still took her there because she was projectile vomiting the last week,
Yikes.
and it's not fun. She looked not good. Finally gave us a stronger medicine that was able to help a bit. But I was tired, and like this was 4 days ago. I was dealing with this, and she got better, and she got worse. And I took a picture, like I sent my mom's like, how's everything going? I took a picture of myself, and I looked like shit. And I sent it like the next morning. I saw it, and I was just like, oh man, I'm gonna post that on LinkedIn because that's awesome. And like I posted, and I was like, this is what it's like. This is what You know what was interesting though? So many people commented on that. That was like one of my biggest posts to date. Like it was just huge reach. Everyone's like, I'm pulling for you, man. And so many parents are like, I've been there. Like, I've been there. I've been there trying to get to work, trying to figure out how to do all this stuff. And I've got a sick kid at home. Parents are balancing multiple jobs. And it was interesting because it wasn't just, I didn't think that shit out. I just was sitting there
Mm-hmm.
with a really sick kid going, and my mom's like, are you okay? And I'm like, not really, you know? And
Yeah.
so, but it was that moment. So I think there's something to be said for just like not be authentic, but like truly authentic moments. If you're sitting there and you're dealing with a little moment of zen as whatever happens, happens, even if it's not great, document it. I think that's one of
Yeah.
my biggest problems with like all of the, not just all of the influencers, especially on LinkedIn, that go, I crush it 12 days a week. I'm out here running, I just ran 5 marathons in 12 days. And you're like, God, you know, I I had one of my students that just ran a race, and she did this race, and I was like, dude, I need to start running too. But then luckily she posted what happened after the race. She's like, I just partially tore one ACL and the other ACL is fully torn. And I was just like, okay, maybe I
Yeah.
don't need to do cross country racing. I'm okay with my ACLs being where they're at. But
Totally. I mean, we romanticize so much. And
right?
I think people forget about, a personal brand should be somewhat personal. Like they forget that
100%.
part of the say or of that name, right? The term. And so it's posting things like that with your sixth kid. I mean, I just had one similar. I was sick for a week and I couldn't really post anything. I felt like shit. And um I was like, what do I even post about? And I was like, I guess I'll just post about being sick and how actually it's really tough. It was the first time I was ever fully sick and like out of business for a week, since starting my own company. And so before, when I was like a classic employee working for somebody else, if I'm out for a week, like whatever, I'm still getting a paycheck. It's just sick leave. But I'm not getting a paycheck when I'm working by myself for myself and I'm sick. And so I was like, okay, I can like turn this post or turn this experience into something relevant online. And you don't always have to do that. That's like a very LinkedIn thing to do. Um, but I think showing the hard sides of whatever it is your personal brand is about, showing the tough stuff. And also, I like to think about your personal brand as your universe, you know? And so, and within this universe, you have your kingdoms, as some people call them, pillars, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's like I'm a freelance creative, and it's video, it's photography, but it's also I live in Salt Lake City because I love hiking and climbing and skiing and all these other things. And so that is a huge, strong kingdom in my life. And it's something that I post about 10% of the time. But it adds just like a little bit of depth into who I am. And it's just another way people can connect with me and relate to me. Um, and inevitably, like, the better you get to know somebody, the more likely you are to trust them, the more likely you are to buy from them. There's that saying, people buy from people, but I like to say people buy from friends. And so the more you can make yourself feel like somebody's friend, the more likely they are to buy from you.
I love that. I want to ask you one last question. Um, i- what's one small change someone could make this week that would immediately make their videos more distinctive?
Ooh, the first thing that comes to mind is add a splash of color. Like, I'm so tired of seeing just beige or white walls, nothing on them. They're in like a white button up or like a
Yeah,
beige sweater, and they're just staring at the camera. I'm going to swipe away from that. Like, just because I'm expecting the same old, same old. However, put on a bright red shirt. I don't know, go into your kitchen where you have a blue wall. Like, do something. Maybe it doesn't even have to be something big like that. I don't know, you have a funky lamp, put that in the background. Like,
mhm.
something small that you can add to your content. Um, Hopefully that is colorful, because the human eye perceives color before it recognizes anything else. It's like the first thing that we notice. And so if it's bright and stands out, you're more likely to grab someone's attention. And then you just got to figure out how to keep them around throughout the rest of the video.
I love that. Where can people go to find out more about you and what you do?
The main place to go is my LinkedIn. So linkedin.com/Katy Roberts Creative. If you just Google Katy Roberts, Katy with a Y, you'll find me. If you're in the Salt Lake City, Utah area, you can check out my photography at theplayfulprofessional.com. But generally, yeah, I am trying to grow. Also, Katy Roberts Creative on Instagram. I'm trying to grow my personal brand, because I have gotten so much great feedback about how I just inspire people to be more creative. And I feel like that is my main mission in life, is just to get people to start making shit. And so if
Well,
I can grow my audience so more and more people do that, I think inevitably the world will be a better place.